Guys, welcome back to Spank Ranch Garage. Tonight's project is an old lathe chuck that I need to restore and get back to working order. Currently, the only lathe I have is this old 12-inch swing Craftman Atlas lathe. It's really a toy lathe or a really hobbyist lathe. It doesn't work well for a lot of the jobs I have to do, but it does get them done. At the end of the day, one of the constraints I have with it, though, is it came with this tiny little 3-jaw chuck. This chuck is very small. Let's compare it to the 8-inch chuck. I mean, this chuck's like a joke. The issue with this chuck, other than the concentricity issues I have with it, is it will only hold about 1.5 inches or a 2-inch piece of stock on the OD, and the jaws are not reversible, so I can't clamp stock from the outside in. So this chuck is fine for like making little pins and, you know, little bushings and stuff, but this chuck really limits my capabilities for just about everything else. I got some projects coming up where I need to turn some bigger things. The lathe will swing 12 inches. I don't need to turn anything that big, but I need to be able to hold a 4-inch piece of stock or so. So I picked up this really cheap, old, American-made 8-inch 4-jaw chuck on eBay for a decent price, knowing it was in very bad condition. It was priced accordingly. And to my surprise, it's actually got the correct backing plate in it with the correct thread to fit my spindle. So that is a huge bonus. I thought I was gonna have to make a backing plate for this. I already test fitted it. It screws right onto my lathe. Looks like this is actually a 7/16 chuck key. Oh, that does not want to move, kind of as expected. Oh, that's not good. Okay, these are very seized as expected, so it's time to get after it. It wouldn't be a Spank Ranch Garage quick project without becoming a big project. Usually the jaws have a little bit of play in the threads, so I should be able to hopefully hit them with a brass punch, get them to move just a smidge. That'll break them loose in their slots here, and then we can focus on the threads. Getting that little 5-6 degrees of movement is very important. Now I can get some oil into those threads. You see, there ain't that much to these. Just a screw and a jaw. Now the cool thing is this also has a reversible jaw. So you could run them like this, really grip onto something big. Probably bigger than I'll ever need to, but it's nice to have that capability. Oh, oh, that's not good. Starting to deform. Let's get a little magic heat on her. Well, guys, looks like we're going to be drilling one of them. So it was totally just the head was seized, causing the whole bolt to be seized, but there was nothing wrong with the threads or the shaft. So, got a good bolt. I'll measure this up, try to find the closest replacement I can. I'd even prefer it to be a hex as opposed to a flathead, because flatheads are very 1940s. All right, so now we get down to the nitty gritty of how are we gonna get the rust off of this and get this looking like new without using, you know, sandpaper, grinding, whatever. So what you're gonna need for this job, obviously, is the parts you wanna pull the rust off of. I got a 5-gallon bucket with 3 gallons of tap water in it. I've got some baking soda, get that anywhere, Walmart, whatever. You're gonna want 3 natural lights. They don't tell you this, but this is essential. You want a battery charger, like a 12-volt charger. This one's good for 2 amps or 8 amps. I'll be running it at 2 amps. I'm gonna use a TIG welding rod to hang the part that I'm trying to pull the rust off of. This is a piece of bent up sheet metal here from a rocker panel. That's gonna be my consumable steel. And then I'm gonna use this camshaft to support across the top of the bucket. And we're gonna hang the chuck parts down into the water. And then we're gonna use a process called electrolysis. And over time, it will hopefully pull this rust from the surface, put it onto the consumable steel, and then this will be looking good again. So let's get that started. All right, so you wanna take just like a good sprinkle of baking soda. That looks good to me. I don't know what the actual number is, but it doesn't matter. And we'll mix that up in there. All right, now we'll set our camshaft across the top of the bucket. This is just gonna be a support. You could use anything for this. And then let's get this thing ready to hang. Okay, that looks good. So the chuck is fully submerged in the solution, but it's not touching the bucket or the bottom of the bucket. Now we'll place this basically sacrificial steel in here. So I'm just gonna slide that down the side of the bucket. It just needs to be in the water. And now we're gonna add a couple of these beers. And this helps add a little conductivity to the water. And the CO2, the CO2 helps react with the electrons and the ions to break the rust off of the part you're trying to de-rust. So now basically we're gonna hook up this battery charger and we're gonna let it do the work for us. So now hook up the negative of your charger to your part, the positive to your sacrificial steel, and you let her go. And looking in here, you might be able to see it, but there are bubbles forming on the chuck and they're heading up towards the surface. Now this is not a fast process. This might take 3 days to come out okay, but I got time. It's just gonna sit here and bubble, bubble, bubble. And then I'll check on it once a day, come shake it around, whatever, inspect it. And then I'm gonna resume this video when I feel like I had enough time to soak. About 10 minutes in, the water and the bubbles are visually discoloring. Ew. All right. About 20 hours later. Ew. That looks gross. Yeah, pulling only about 1 amp. Wow. Look at the crap on that sacrificial piece. Jesus, that's nasty. All right, here she is after her first bath. 20 hours or so. Got a lot of the rust off, but there's still a lot of rust in the crevices through the center bore. So I think I'm gonna dump this solution, make a fresh solution and drop it back in, maybe with a fresh anode as well, because This chuck was bad, and there's just gross, absolute grossness on here. Well, it's been 70 or so hours since I left this. Life gets in the way. This looks disgusting, but that's a good thing. And hopefully there's still a chuck in here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And the thread's cleaned up really nice. Awesome. Look at that. De-rusting like in here. It was very, very heavy. Oh, look at that. It actually just comes out. I guess I got more rinsing to do on this. I mean, this was seriously rusty, and it looks great. It's probably going to start to flash rust pretty quick. So I want to get into cleaning this further, doing a little mechanical polishing on it. You can see I still have some corrosion here, and I'll need to get into threads and all that, but hell of a difference for free, the price of 3 beers and some baking soda. So we'll get ready to set this up on the lathe. So this backing plate, this is the side that runs into the spindle, and then this is the surface here that essentially trues the chuck up. So with the lathe threads clean, we're gonna thread this on. And then I think I'm gonna make a dust cut on this just to make sure that this runs true with my spindle. That way when we bolt the chuck on, everything's nice. Thought here, normal 3/8 chuck key, 3/8 to 7/16 socket with a piece of 7/16 hex in the end of it. Weld that together and I got a chuck key. Final job on this lathe chuck is to turn down the head of the backing plate mounting bolts just a smidge. You see here we do have a height difference between the original and the new bolts, and they stick just a little bit above the surface. I want them to be recessed. All right, that wraps up this little project. Like all my projects, this is a project that I needed to do another project that I need to do another project, so you'll certainly be seeing it on the channel if you're interested. All right, guys, that was a nice little project to wrap up here. Even though this isn't a very big lathe, I believe that this chuck will give me a lot of capability. The forge jaw is kind of a pain in the butt because you have to center your part up every time and indicate it, but that also gives me a little more precision than I was able to get with this little 3-jaw. So all in all, this went really well. Pretty cheap. Got myself an American-made chuck, but I did have to put some work in to make it look decent and actually function. Made my own little chuck wrench for it too, because for some reason I couldn't find a 7/16 chuck wrench online very easily in a hex. But anyway, time for me to make some parts on this thing. So thanks for watching Spank Ranch Garage. I'll see you next time.